Hello and welcome to episode 20 of Game of Wines, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I'm Olivia.
I'm Gabby.
And I'm Chris.
Today we will be discussing Catelyn Chapter 4 in A Game of Thrones, so make sure you have read before listening. So, the Martin message for today is kind of a combo of Martin message and news. So, apparently, back in 1969, these people called the Harvard Lampoon did like a parody book of Lord of the Rings, and they called it Board of the Rings. And now, fast forward a few years, George R. R. Martin and A Song of Ice and Fire is the highlight of their next book. They made a parody book called Game of Thrones, A Song of Hot and Cold, and the writers of this actually sent them a copy, and he said he hasn't looked at it yet, but he's working up the courage. He said that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but also parody is up there as well, so it looks really funny. The cover of it has like a toilet with the thrones that it's supposed to make it look like the throne, but they made it like a toilet instead. Really funny. I will post the link so you guys can look at it. No one answered our questions from last week. So, just a reminder that we will be posting the discussion questions that us three hosts answer at the end of our episodes. We will post those online after the episode is released, and then when that happens, you guys can go on and answer them, and we will read them on our next episode, in the beginning of the next episode. So make sure you guys do that. We post it on both Facebook and Instagram. So...
Alright, so last episode we were all in Bran's head as he was dreaming a pretty crazy dream, and then it ends with him waking up and naming his dire wolf Summer.
Today, Catelyn's journey is drawing to a close, and we get to see King's Landing for the first time. Catelyn tries to keep a low profile, but then she's summoned by an old friend, very unexpectedly, and finds some unexpected and troubling news when she gets there.
Ooh. So, we are drinking Arbor Mist.
Ooh, good old Arbor Mist.
Yeah. Cheap, but gets the job done. Tastes like juice.
Tastes like college.
It's a pink Moscato raspberry. So, geez. Come on,
wow, we're
guys.
going super fancy tonight.
Woo!
It's apparently fizzy.
A little bit.
It's like sparkling juice.
Random thought that I just had. When we had a girls' night, what was it, last weekend?
Yeah.
We had the Arbor Mists, and
Yes.
we couldn't get the caps off.
Dude.
For the life of us.
It was harder to open than a cork.
We were literally...
I don't know why.
Wrestling.
It was like really screwed on
Three different
there.
people tried. Three or four
ridiculous.
different people of us.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Are y'all ready? Sorry.
So just to recap from the last Catelyn chapter, if you guys don't remember, Catelyn decided to take a journey to King's Landing to warn Ned about her theory, I guess you would say, right? Her theory
what she thinks happened.
about the Lannisters. Like, she suspects that someone tried to kill Bran because he knows something he's not supposed to.
Yep.
She got evidence.
She has evidence.
Yes. She has the sword, and she's like, okay, I need to beat Ned there, and I need to tell him about this because he might be in danger.
Olivia, it's a dagger.
Yeah. Whatever. It's a thing with a point at the end, okay?
Wow.
So, Catelyn is traveling to King's Landing via the sea, or the White Knife, with Sir Roderick and Captain Moreo. Captain Moreo has been captain of his ship for over 30 years, and she is traveling to inform Ned of her suspicions that the Lannisters tried to kill Bran. While on the boat, Catelyn promises each of Moreo's men a silver stag for their help in getting them there safely and quickly. So I was actually kind of interested in the currency in Westeros. So I did some research. I couldn't find any like currency values written anywhere, but I did find an article on the Ice and Fire wiki that kind of describes the currency in Westeros. So, let's see, I need to scroll down here.
Because they said stags and they've said the silver pieces.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's the gold coins, which are the dragons. There's silver coins, which are the moon and the stag. And then there's copper coins, which are the stag, groat, half-groat, penny, and halfpenny. So it goes... So I just listed them like most to least.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I thought this was interesting. A moon is worth 30 dragons. 210 stags are worth 1 dragon. And 7 stags are worth 1 moon. And 1 stag... yeah.
Does that math even work?
I know. I'm like,
This is all from George's head, okay?
Oh, George.
210.
Dear old George.
How many moons was 210?
210 stags is 30 moons.
30 moons. But 30... I don't think that math works.
It's not evenly split
Because
up.
a moon is worth how many dragons?
A moon is worth 30 dragons.
No.
Oh, it does
I thought
work.
a moon was less than a dragon.
Oh, no.
A
30 moons is worth
a dragon.
1 dragon.
I guess that math does work. Because it's 21, right?
I don't know. But I just wanted to... So I'm not gonna name them all, but the lowest one is a halfpenny. And 23,520 halfpennies is equal to 1 dragon.
Chris has pulled up his calculator.
784 halfpennies is equal to 7 stags. Which is what Catelyn is giving the men right now.
Oh, God.
I just thought that was interesting. Did you figure something out, Chris?
Nope.
Okay.
He tried.
Any of our mathematicians out there?
Just go back to this. So 210...
Good God.
210 stags
Yeah.
is worth 30 moons.
And 1 moon is worth 30.
30 moons is worth 1 dragon.
So would 210 stags mean that it's a dragon? If it equals 30 moons?
Yeah, so 210 stags
Yes.
would equal 1 dragon.
Nice.
7 stags.
so
no, but listen to this. Listen to this. 7 stags equal 1 moon.
Oh, God.
It does. So 21 and 7. So divided that 30.
Yeah.
So that does make sense.
We got
the
it.
math works
We
out.
got it. Okay. Anyways, back to the story.
Right.
It's just in sevens and not in tens.
Right. So Catelyn is described as being really anxious to see Ned, but the wounds of her hands, remember her hands got cut by that knife when she grabbed it when she was being attacked, are keeping her motivated and focused. So she's not really losing it right now. She's very focused, has a goal in mind, wants to look out for her family. So while she's up on the deck, Sir Roderick joins her, and he is looking a little rough.
To say the least.
To say the least. He doesn't do well on the sea, and he's been sick almost the whole journey. And I think been traveling for like 2 or 3 days now. So seasickness for 3 days.
Yeah, that sucks.
Not a man of the sea.
Not a man of the sea.
Not even close.
Yep. He's a land dweller.
Yes. So then Moreo leaves so that Catelyn and Roderick can discuss business. Catelyn makes a suggestion that they should talk to the Master at Arms, Sir Aaron Santagar, about the dagger when they get to King's Landing. And then Roderick reminds Catelyn that she is at risk for being recognized once they get to King's Landing, and that it might not be a good idea to go see Santagar just yet. He also reminds Catelyn of Littlefinger. So this is the first time that Littlefinger, or Petyr Baelish, is mentioned. Petyr Baelish is the master of coin for the royal family. Petyr and Cat go back a really long ways, all the way back into their childhood. It was actually Catelyn's brother that gave Petyr the nickname Littlefinger because his family is from the smallest of the Finger Islands. So that's where his nickname...
Nothing to do with his hands.
No. No. It's just based on where he was raised and stuff.
Yeah.
So they were friends when they were younger, like I said. Petyr was Catelyn's dad's ward, and they were friends until Petyr challenged the betrothal of Catelyn and Brandon Stark, who was Ned's brother, and then he was sent away, and Cat has not seen him since. So it's been like 10, 15 years, who knows, since she's seen Petyr.
Yeah, and what we know is that Petyr liked her.
Yes, we do know that.
He challenged the betrothal.
Like, he was, like, deeply in love with Catelyn.
Yeah, he challenged the betrothal to Ned's
Bran.
brother.
Yes.
But then he didn't challenge the other betrothal.
Right.
Which is odd.
Because I think they kind of, like, shut him up after that.
I think you're done.
You're okay.
This.
Just leave.
Shut up.
You can't say that Catelyn just, like, threw it away.
So King's Landing is finally coming into view, And the captain is readying his men to dock the boat. Catelyn knew 300 years ago that King's Landing had been covered with forest, and there were only a few fisher folk living there. And then Aegon Targaryen came and built the first castle. So this is looking completely different than what Catelyn knew to be King's Landing, because I'm assuming she's only heard, like, stories and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So she comes up to this big King's Landing with all these castles and people running about and blah, 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 blah.
So she says that the city is covering the shore as far as she can see. So to me, that just literally means, like, all she's seeing is buildings. And, like, literally no empty areas.
Yeah.
She says there were manses, arbors, granaries?
Granaries.
Granaries?
Mm-hmm. Granaries.
Like grain?
They store grain.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if there isn't an eye.
I think you didn't put an eye.
No, even in the book there isn't.
I'll look it up, see if it's something.
Well, they said granaries filled with wheat. So I assume it's a granary.
Yeah, I mean, brick storehouses.
Literally, the definition is a storehouse for threshed grain.
There it is.
Threshed. I like that word. She said there were timbered inns, graveyards, and brothels all piled onto one another. So, seems like a pretty jam-packed city.
Lots of buildings.
Yeah. She also says that she could hear the clamor of the fish market from where she was, like, where they were, and they weren't even docked yet. So, that's kind of pretty loud. Between the buildings were broad roads lined with trees, crookback streets, and alleys so narrow that two men couldn't walk next to each other through them. So, I mean,
that's a small alleyway.
Yeah, that's pretty damn narrow if you think about it. Visenya's Hall was crowned by the hill. Sorry, Visenya's Hill.
I was like, what?
Was crowned by the great Sept of Baelor with its 7 crystal towers.
Can we pause and kind of, like, dissect that a little bit?
Well, Visenya,
because that was a lot
sister.
of names and that was a lot of places. So looking up. I first want to look up what Visenya's Hill is, because I don't know. There's just a lot of names and stuff that was thrown out there. If that's okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interject. So Visenya's Hill, it says on the wiki that it's one of 3 hills that lie within the city of King's Landing, and the other hills being the Hill of Rhaenys and Aegon's High Hill. So it sounds like they were named after the old Targaryens.
Yeah.
And then I think the next thing you said, Gabby, was the Great Sept of Baelor.
Yes.
And it says here that atop of Visenya's Hill lies the Great Sept of Baelor, while at its base are a cluster of small trees and the guild hall of the alchemists. So it sounds like it's just like a little forest on top of Visenya's Hill, right?
Yeah.
Am I reading that correctly?
That's what it sounded like.
Let me actually click on
this
it.
is called King's Landing.
Oh, it's... Okay, no. It's the center of religious worship for the faith of the 7. And that's where the High Septon is.
Okay.
So that's... Yeah.
I was saying it makes sense that the hills are named after Targaryens, because that's why the city is called King's Landing.
Yes, correct.
That's where Aegon the Conqueror landed.
Yes.
So on top of Visenya's Hill is the Great Sept of Baelor, where the religious people of the faith of the 7 worship.
Yes.
And then, did you say something else after that?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
And then across the city, on the hill of
Rhaenys.
Yes. Stood the blackened walls of the dragon pit. Its huge dome was collapsing into ruin because its bronze doors hadn't been opened in over a century.
So I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
A big ass dragon pit.
It's a pit where there are dragons.
Yeah, exactly.
And it says it's in ruin. It's
it's
collapsing.
falling apart because nobody's using it now.
Yes.
And then it says, the Street of Sisters ran between them, straight as an arrow, and the city's walls rose in the distance, high and strong. I've never heard the Street of Sisters before.
I haven't either. I just looked it up. This is from the fandom website. It says it's one of 4 streets that starts at the Great Square in the center of King's Landing, with the other 3 being the God's Way, the King's Way, and the Muddy Way. So it's just one of the main thoroughfares through the city, it sounds like.
Okay. So the harbor was crowded with ships, and 100 quays lined the waterfront. I'm not really sure what that is.
I got you. I'm already...
Right. Live with Google.
It's a concrete, stone, or metal platform lying alongside or projecting into water, for loading and unloading ships, so it's a dock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deep water fishing boats and river runners came and went. Ferrymen pulled back and forth across the Blackwater Rush. Trading galleys unloaded goods from Bravos, Pentos, and I don't know how we decided that we say this. Lice? Lice?
Yep.
And Cat then spotted the Queen's ornate barge tied up beside a fat-bellied whaler. I thought it was funny that, even Cat was describing fat-bellied whaler.
The whaler was, covered in oil.
Yeah.
Like whale oil.
Yeah.
It was, disgusting. The way she described
nasty.
it was gross. Yeah.
And then above all of it, frowning down from Aegon's high hill, was the Red Keep. 7 huge drum towers crowned with iron ramparts, an immense grim barbican, vaulted halls, and covered bridges, barracks and dungeons and granaries, all fashioned of a pale red stone. Apparently, Aegon the Conqueror demanded it to be built, and his son, Maegor the Cruel, was who had it completed. And then I thought this was interesting, and I mean, it was definitely cruel, so it fits his name.
Yep.
But I still thought it was kind of cool. But once the Red Keep was built, he took the heads of all the men who had part in building it, because he vowed that only the blood of the dragon would ever know the secrets of the fortress. So, literally, that must mean that it has a whole bunch of passageways and stuff,
yeah.
You know
what that reminds me of? Have you ever heard of the Winchester House?
No.
So the Winchester is a gun brand.
Okay.
And the heir to the Winchester fortune, or the wife of, I don't know what his name was, but she built a house in California where she built a new section of it every week. And it twists and turns, and there's doors that lead to nothing, doors that just lead to outside that are on the 3rd floor.
Oh, that's weird.
And it's called the Winchester House, Winchester Mansion. It's haunted.
Huh.
That's what that reminds me of. No one is ever going to know.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'd be cool to
no one knows the secrets of the Red Keep.
Yeah, have a place that literally, no one else knows.
Yeah.
The secrets and stuff. But now, the banners of the Red Keep were no longer black. They were golden. Which obviously shows that the Targaryens are no longer there. Anyway, so Sir Roderick then kind of breaks her line of thought and says, "My lady, I have thought on how to best proceed while I lay abed. You must not enter the castle. I will go in your stead and bring Sir Aaron to you in some safe place." And Kat just responds that he's going to be as much of a risk as she would be. But Roderick smiles and says that he doesn't think so, because he looked at his reflection in the water earlier and barely recognized himself.
Yeah.
He also says that his mom was the last person to ever see him without whiskers, which I'm assuming is a
beard.
A beard or mustache.
Yeah.
I don't know. That his mom is long dead, so there's no need to be concerned, basically.
No one knows what I look like.
Yeah, exactly. As they thumped up against the dock, the Tyroshi seamen leapt down to tie them up. Moreo comes down and says, "King's Landing, my lady, as you did command." Kat then tells him that she doesn't need any help carrying her things into the castle, and just asks if he can suggest an inn, to which he responds that he does know a few, but he wanted to then ask about the second half of his payment for the trip, and Kat reminds him that, no, it was for the Ormen. And he tries to say, well, I can hold the money for them until we go back, because they have wives and families at home, and if they were to be paid now, they would spend it all on a night's pleasure. I can't tell if he's being sincere or just wants the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For sure.
Roderick replies that there are worse things to spend money on, and Kat says that how they spend their money is none of her concern. Which,
good for her.
They want to waste it, they can waste it. I don't know.
And just to be sure, Catelyn paid the men herself.
So now they can do whatever they want.
Yes.
Good for her.
Exactly. Roderick says to Kat that he thinks it's best that she stays away from the common room in the inn, because even in a place like this, you never know who may be watching. And then he promises that he will be back with Sir Aaron before nightfall, and tells Kat to get some rest. And she notices that she is tired, and that the voyage had been very long, and she was not as young as she once was. I mean, Yeah.
Or the fact that you stayed awake for 14 days and then decided to go travel to King's Landing from the north.
I mean,
you know?
you're
Slightly
kinda,
fatigued at this point.
Yeah, you're kind of pushing yourself.
Yeah.
So because of that, she had no problem falling asleep. Then next thing she knows, she's woken up to a pounding on her door, and she sits up sharply, and a voice calls out to open in the name of the king.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yikes.
I'm not here.
No? So she calls out and just kind of asks, like, for a moment, because she was asleep. Duh. She wraps herself in her cloak, and the dagger was on the bedside table, so she snatched it up before she unhatched the door. The men obviously see the dagger and say, "No need for that, milady. We're here to escort you to the castle." And she obviously asks by whose authority. And the man shows her a ribbon, and Catelyn feels her breath catch in her throat because the seal was a mockingbird in gray wax.
Oh boy.
So quietly she says to herself, Petyr. Petyr.
Wrong movie.
She then asked the men if they knew who she was, but they replied no. So one of the men even said, "My lord Littlefinger said only to bring you to him and see that you were not mistreated." So Cat nodded and told them that they could wait outside while she got dressed. And then it kind of cuts to her having these thoughts of, like, who could have told Petyr that she was even here? Like, how does he even know that she's in King's Landing? And her first thought was Sir Roderick, but she knew it couldn't have been him. And then she thought that maybe the Lannisters had reached King's Landing before her, but knew that if that were true, Ned would have come to find her.
True.
So, obviously she's like, how? You know? And she's kind of confused. Then she kind of thinks, oh, Moreo. Damn him. The Tyroshi knew who they were and where they are. She hoped that that he had gotten a good price for the information. So at least she respects, you know? Yeah. So after that, she obviously heads out and meets up with the men who had just woken her from her sleep. And they had brought a horse for her. And the lamps were being lit along the streets as they set out. And Catelyn said that she could feel all the eyes of the city on her as she rode. And then once they make it, the guardsmen left their mounts outside the walls and escorted her through a narrow postern door.
Yeah, postern door.
Postern?
It's like I think I looked it up before, and it was like just a small door so they don't have to open the big one.
Okay.
Basically, it's like a door that can easily be like locked
Is it like
up.
fit inside a big door?
I think so. It's like a small door on a big door.
So it's like a doggy door for a human.
It's like if I wouldn't want to open the garage door, so I just put like a normal door in the garage door, so then I open that one.
Lazy.
Makes me think of The Grinch. We just watched that.
Lazy?
Yeah.
It's a big, I mean, I'm sure it's a giant gig. Like one person, let's just raise this thing up.
Just saying.
It takes like a half hour to raise it up.
And then they went up in endless steps up to a tower. Petyr was seated.
Seated.
Oh Lord.
Spit my wine out.
Anyway, Petyr was sitting alone at a heavy wooden table with an oil lamp beside him. And when they entered, he sets his pen down and looks up at her and quietly goes, "Cat."
Very good.
Cat.
Cat! But not actually. He just says, "Cat." Cat asks why she has been brought here in this fashion. And he rises and sends the guards away out of the room. And then he says to her, "You were not mistreated, I trust. I gave them firm instructions." And he says that once the guards are out of the room. And then he kind of like looks down and notices the bandages on her hands. And he even says out loud, "Your hands." Your hands. No. Cat ignores his implied question and replies with, "I am not accustomed to being summoned like a serving wench. As a boy, you still knew the meaning of courtesy." And she said it's super icy.
Yeah. Which, of course, then Baelish comes right back. "I did not mean to anger you, my lady. Surely that was not my intent."
Yeah,
So
okay.
he's very smooth. Catelyn remarks that his sheepish charm always got him out of things as a child as well, so this is not new. And she's no stranger to his contriteness. So he's always good at apologizing after the fact. She remarks on how he grew into a small man and that he had sharp features. And she commented a little bit about how, like, that's different than Ned's features or Brandon's features. Littlefinger then says that he knew Cat was there because Varys knew she was there. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of clicks. Cat calls him a spider, and Littlefinger says, I wouldn't call him that. He's quite sensitive. And he says it's the eunuch. Eunuchs are quite sensitive.
Yeah.
And Littlefinger says that he is alone with Varys, and everyone else is actually gone from the castle. So the Lannisters aren't back yet. Ned's not there. It's just them running the whole show right now. And Varys...
Because the king is traveling with Ned right now.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
yes.
They're not there yet. So
right.
She did beat them there.
Yes. Sorry, that just clicked for me.
Yeah. And Varys came to him with the information, knowing that Littlefinger knew Catelyn. So he went to Littlefinger and was like, hey...
Your friend's here.
Your friend's here. And Littlefinger's like, well, I should bring her in so she can be protected. Or something of that sort.
Yeah.
So Varys is the master of whispers, as we know, and he has his little birds. So that's where he gets his information from.
Mm-hmm. Do we know who the little birds are? No.
So all we know is that we've seen this happen before because Varys' little birds are the ones that told Robert about Daenerys. Mm-hmm. So we know that he has little birds not only in Westeros, but all across, I guess, the world.
Yeah.
But Varys doesn't know why Cat is there.
Just knows that she is.
Yeah. So Littlefinger and Varys don't know why she's there, and they're kind of confused as to why. So Cat makes up an excuse that she's longing for her husband, and Littlefinger immediately doesn't buy it. And he goes, well, if that's the case, I mean, but what are the Tully words? And she has to say family, duty, honor. He goes, okay, so I know that you weren't longing for your husband because your honor would have been telling you to stay in Winterfell. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you were just longing for your husband and you just, I need to go see him. I mean, he's only been gone for how long?
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple weeks.
Barely.
Last time, he was gone for a year. So Varys comes in and they describe Varys as flowing and mystical. He's bald and he smells like flowers and his skin is moist.
Ugh.
So he's like...
Ew, Varys.
He's like heavily lotioned. That's what I see him as, like heavily lotioned.
Ew. Or oiled.
Yeah, oiled.
Yeah.
That's a better word than lotioned. I think of like, because he's bald, that his head is shiny. You know.
That's gross. Wet skin.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And so Varys exchanges pleasantries and says that he is so sorry about Bran. He grabs Catelyn's hands.
Can I just say something really quick? In your notes, it says, like, you're describing Varys, and it says smelling of wet flowers and wet skin. I thought you meant he smelled like wet skin. I was like, what?
No, she said he, like, smelled of, like, lilac.
Yeah, and no, I got that, but the way you worded it in your notes, it was just funny to me.
Even, I think she said even, like, when he talked, it smelled like flowers out of his breath. Okay. So they exchange pleasantries, and he says that he's so sorry to hear about Bran. And Cat quickly dismisses it and doesn't want to discuss this with them. And Varys starts offering her several things. He offers her the medicine for her hands. And then he offers her something weird, which I thought was odd in the book. He literally says that he knows a healer that could, like, completely heal Bran.
Like, even of paralysis?
Yes. He's like, I know a healer, not in the Seven Kingdoms. He's like, east.
Do you think this is like some BS? Or
I guarantee it's just like ridiculous medicine, something like that. And she's like, no.
Wow.
I just thought that was weird.
That is weird.
Because she's like, no. Well, I don't want to.
That's strange.
I might want to try anything if I was.
Yeah.
And then Varys can actually see the blade now. Or Varys asks, can we see the blade now? And Cat is kind of awestruck that he even knew about the blade.
Listen. Varys knows everything.
He's like, hey, can I see the blade?
Like, everything.
But he didn't know why she was there.
Right. But still,
but now he knows
everything.
about the blade, so it's like he should be putting some two and two together.
He knows everything.
I did right. He knows everything.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see that.
That was my next note.
That's funny.
Yeah, so Cat is awestruck, and she didn't even know that they knew about it. Varys then picks up the blade and he starts looking at it, and he actually cuts himself on it because I don't think he was expecting it to be that sharp. And she goes, "Be careful, it's Valyrian steel." I think she says, nothing holds an edge like Valyrian steel, after he's like whimpering and like, ow, I really, that hurt. So then Littlefinger starts playing with the blade, and he starts like doing some like tricks with it, which is weird. And then he throws it and sticks it in the door. So
he knows how to handle it.
Yeah. Littlefinger says that the blade is the only one in King's Landing. And Cat asks why he knows this. And he goes, because this is mine.
This isn't in the show. This scene in the show, I love the line that he says. It's like, "Oh, Varys, something that I know that you don't for once."
Yeah,
like,
the show.
And he also, I don't think he even handles the dagger at all in the show.
He just looks at it.
It's just like something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, because it's mine.
Yeah.
And so Kat's kind of awestruck again, and she doesn't quite understand why this is happening, because she's like, okay, well, Littlefinger, he would have no reason to come kill Bran.
And there's probably so many things going through her head. Like,
okay, well,
this
it was
blade
yours.
killed my kid, and then attacked me. Not killed my kid, I'm sorry. It was used to attack my kid, and then it attacked me, and like, blah, blah, blah. Like, what happened?
So then, so she's like, you need to explain right now.
Yeah.
If this is yours. So Littlefinger explains that it was his, but he doesn't have it anymore because he actually used it and made a bet at Joffrey's name day ceremony that he bet that Jaime would win the jousting. But Jaime did not win the jousting, so he lost the knife. And then, Cat quickly asks, okay, then who won it? Who did it pass to? And, they kind of cliffhanger here. He says the imp, Tyrion Lannisters.
No!
Bomb drop.
And
that's how the chapter ends.
So we know that the knife was last in possession of Tyrion Lannister.
Yep. We're putting wires together. And
yes.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang, that is one heck of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it is.
That's a good one.
All right.
So, the discussion questions that we have is, the first one is, would you have taken the same approach as Kat in sneaking around King's Landing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think yes and no. I think no, yes to the sneaking around, but maybe I would have been smarter about it and not left a loose end.
Yeah.
As in the captain of the boat, who literally was already paid, so he didn't really have anything to lose.
Yeah.
So that was on her.
But for paying before?
Yeah, sneaking around, and I probably wouldn't have let Roderick go without me. Like, I wouldn't have let him leave my side.
Yeah.
But like, you're supposed to be here to protect me, even if I'm in an inn. Clearly...
So literally the only reason you're here.
Yeah, clearly she needed him to be there. So, everyone go to that?
Yep.
Second one is, do you think Littlefinger is justified in having Cat brought to the castle? No. Or should he have gone to her?
I think he should have gone to her just to protect her.
I agree.
So that other people won't see her parading around the streets.
To protect her anonymity.
Yeah.
That's a big word.
If he really cared about her.
He would have gone to her and kept it in a secret.
Well, but he's kind of a worm, so...
But he also didn't know why she was there. So I see why he called for her to come to him.
That's very true.
Because he didn't know. So I think he was trying to be respectful.
That's a good point.
In, like, her status. But then also he probably should have known there's a reason she's at the inn and wasn't just like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm here.
Facts.
All right. And the last question is, if Varys knows everything, do you think he knows who pushed Bran?
Oh.
He knows everything, right?
I think he has his suspicions.
Yeah.
I think he does too. But the question is, do you think he knows it?
I don't think he knows.
I don't think he knows for sure.
Yeah. I just don't think anyone was like really... I mean, you don't know.
But we don't know who is around. We don't know what the little birds are.
Well, I think that was a very well kept secret. Or the pushing Bran out the window scared off the little birds from telling Varys.
Mm-hmm.
Or he knows, and he knows that it could be way too volatile if he... In his position right now. Think about his position.
Yeah.
He's on the council. For Robert Baratheon.
Varys...
And Jaime's the one that...
is in a very powerful position.
He is.
Because he knows everything and he can divulge any information at any time he wants. Mm-hmm. To his advantage.
Yep. He can play the cards how he wants to play the cards.
Yes.
I think he's a pretty cool character.
He is. Yes, and I think he is very powerful in his own way.
Let's say underrated.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. Those are the questions. Make sure you answer them on our social media.
Speaking of social media, we are on Facebook at Game of Wines, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast, on Instagram and Twitter at Game of Wines 1, and also on YouTube at Game of Wines podcast. And we just made a TikTok account, which is also Game of Wines 1, so please go follow us on that. That is it for this week's episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Next episode, we will be discussing John chapter 3, so make sure you read it before next Monday.